video right now and you haven't subscribed, better get your ass down there and press that red button.
Tankers Fantasy Football.
Welcome back. I am Jason Wiersema. This is Tankers Fantasy Football, and usually I wait until, February, maybe early March, start the show back up, get it sexy, start talking about the draft and whatnot. But my boy Dillon Yeager made the sexiest deluxe intro video that I've ever did see for me. So I just had to get some Dynasty rankings going for you. We're going to do a top 10 running backs. We're going to do 11 through 20 next week. Try to keep the videos a little bit shorter, but we're going to do a top 10 Dynasty running backs for you guys. I know Dynasty leagues start a little bit early, right after the NFL draft. They get it going, so you guys are probably doing some of your homework now. So we're going to get it sexy for you. And if you need to get a hold of my boy Dillon to get you anything going with video editing or anything going with Photoshop, he's the man. He will get it sexy for you, and all of his links, all of his Instagrams and whatnot are in the description below if you need to give him a holler. All right, we're going to lead it off with your boy Christian McCaffrey, the undeniable sex. He had 287 carries for 1,387 yards, 15 touchdowns, added another 116 receptions for 1,005 yards, and another 4 touchdowns. So he's the third player in NFL history, along with Roger Craig and Marshall Faulk, to go over 1,000 on the season. I mean, my goodness, he only had 1 week where he really shit the bed for you. It was that week 2 where he had 7.3 PPR, but other than that, he only had 1 game under 21 PPR on this season. I mean, it doesn't even matter how bad the Panthers were or who was throwing the rock for the Panthers. I mean, they went out there and lost 29-3, and this guy still had 30 PPR points. They went out there and lost 38-6. So at least the Panthers team isn't scoring a touchdown in either one of these games, and he went out there and gets 30 in the game when they lost 38-6. He went out there and got 32 PPR points. I mean, this guy is absolutely eating. He averaged 25 touches a week. He had 5 games where he had 10 or more receptions. So undeniable sex, undeniable number 1, Christian McCaffrey. All right, we got Saquon Barkley. Love the talent, hate the situation. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey can go out there and get it that sexy on a 6-10 team, I think Barkley can turn it around. I think his high ankle sprain was holding him back. I think he came back too early. I mean, this guy is explosive. Absolutely explosive deluxe. He had 217 carries, just able to crack 1,000 with 1,003 yards, only the 6 rushing touchdowns. My bad. Added 52 receptions for 438 more yards and 2 receiving touchdowns as well. Finished 9th in PPR, but missing 3 games. I mean, the guy had 52 receptions this year. That was down from 91. That's the only thing I'm really worried about is Daniel Jones's inability or, lack thereof. He never checks it down. He's always looking to huck it, chuck it football. Maybe they're going in the offseason and get that right, get his reception total back up in that 70 to 80 range. But, I mean, that is missing over 40 receptions. We got to get that back up. In 8 of his 13 games, he was under 20 PPR points, so that's not top 3. That's not top 5. That's not you drafted him 1 overall. You hate your fucking life. You're out of the fantasy playoffs only to watch him go out there and absolutely eat in week 15 and 16. So that's leaving a bad taste in your mouth. I mean, the guy only had 2 games over 5 receptions on the season as well. I love you, Saquon. I'm still giving you the number 2. Do not let us down again, baby. All right, we got Zeke. He's rolling in at number 3. People are saying Zeke had a down year. He still finished in top 3 in PPR. He had 301 carries for 1,357 yards, the 12 touchdowns. He added 54 receptions for 420 additional yards and 2 more touchdowns. The guy had 77 receptions last year. He only finished with the 54 this year. But his touchdowns went up from 6 in 2018 to 14 in this last year. So that is absolutely getting it done. I mean, the guy had 9 games under 20, but he only had 1 game under 13. So, I mean, The guy was reliable. He was, RB1 all season long. He didn't have very many blow-up, sexy deluxe games, so that's why people are kind of down on him a little bit. But this guy is getting out there. He's grinding. Mike McCarthy's coming into town. I'm not really that big into Mike McCarthy. You know, people are saying, you know, he didn't really give Aaron Jones the ball. Fucking Jerry Jones ain't gonna allow any of that shit. He backed the truck up. He gave Zeke all the money. Zeke's gonna be on the fucking football field. I mean, a guy like Mike McCarthy was able to was willing to feed the rock to the likes of bumcocks like Eddie Lacy in the past. So I am not afraid. I think Zeke will go out there and absolutely feast next year as well. All right, we got Dalvin Cook. He had 250 carries for 1,135 yards, 13 touchdowns, added 53 receptions for 519 yards, held him out of the end zone in the receiving department, did that in 4 games. I mean, he finished 6th in PPR, only 1 game under 13, and it was the game when he was banged up and had to leave early before missing weeks 15, before missing the remainder of the season, week 16 and 17. And 17 out of 14, he had under 20, but super solid. I mean, the only thing that's really worried about me is out of any of these guys I've talked about in the top 4, Alexander Madison, I think, is the most capable of any of the backups. I'm going to say Tony Pollard for Zeke, but I don't know. I just like Alexander Madison, cut of his jib much more. I think he can go out there and maybe, you know, loosen the load on Dalvin Cook a little bit, but I think Dalvin Cook is still a 50 reception guy. I think he's still an end zone hawk. I think he's still worth his top 4 dynasty. I mean, he does have injury concerns as well. He's never finished a full season. He missed 2 games this year, missed 5 games last year, missed 12 games in 2017. So, I mean, it was looking like this was going to be the year until the end of the year where he did get banged up, but he did return to form in the playoffs and look pretty solid, scoring 2 touchdowns in that wild card week versus the Saints out there. All right, we're going to close out the top 5 with Kamara. A lot of people are saying to me, you got to put Henry over Kamara, but I'm talking about full PPR. I don't know, I'm just talking about, I mean, Kamara did have a terrible down year, because you look at it, the guy had 81 receptions, so that's not the down part. He had 90 last year, he had 81 this year, but the problem is, he averaged 8.8 yards a catch last year, and he only averaged 6.5 yards a catch this year, so that was down in the dumps. His touchdowns have absolutely went down too. He had 6 total touchdowns last year, 6 total touchdowns this year. He had 18 in 2018, and he had 13 his rookie year in 2017. The guy didn't have any 100-yard games this season, but he only had 1 100-yard rushing game in his Sexy Deluxe 2018. So that's not really the guys. This guy's cut of jibs. This guy's all about receiving. This guy's all about red zone work. He's an end zone hawk. I think he's going to get it back. I think he's going to return to that top 5 form as we've seen in the past. What did he finish? 10th in PPR this season in the 14 games played. I mean, I don't know. I'm still all in on him. I'm still going to give him the nod over Derrick Henry. I feel like, you know, if I owned Alvin Kamara in a Dynasty League and somebody offered Derrick Henry to me, I'd probably have to turn him down, even though Derrick Henry is just absolutely looking out there, looking like a freak, looking like, you know, that guy's mom from Days of Confusion, talking about my grandma's tougher and stronger and tougher than you pansies because she's 6'3", 250, runs a 4.5 40. Well, that's describing your boy Derrick Henry. So I mean, all in, Derrick Henry is our next guy at 6. Went out there, got 303 carries for a league-leading 1,540 yards, 16 touchdowns, added to 18 receptions for 206 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a hell of a yard. He averaged 11 yards per catch. That's really good for a running back. Maybe they should think about dumping off to our boy a little bit more. They probably won't, though. So we're going to go with, he's going to be around that 20 reception range moving forward. So in PPR, that's not really getting it sexy for you. He scored in all of 4 games. But the problem is, because he's not a PPR guy, his high water mark in those 4 games where he did not score was 11 PPR points. I mean, 20 or more touches and 9 of 15, so that's what you need for a guy like Derrick Henry to eat for you. Finished absolutely strong, but he did leave you hanging in the fantasy title game where they decided to let him rest his hammy in week 16. But we went out there in week 17, pissed you off even more, and ran for 202 touchdowns on the Houston Texans. But I think this guy is the cornerstone of this offense. That's not going anywhere. I think he's going to be the cornerstone for his offense for probably looking another 3, maybe 4 years. So you're talking about a few years of Sexy Deluxe production left on you. So that gets you into the top 5, top 6. We're going to give him the 6th spot. All right, we got Nick Chubb. Now this is kind of based upon Kareem Hunt leaving town, this ranking of Nick Chubb right now at 7. Because you think, you look at it, and when Kareem Hunt came in, it really got kind of dicey for your boy out there. Because he had 298 carries on the season for 1,494 yards, which is second most in the NFL. He had the eight rushing touchdowns. He had the 36 receptions for 278 yards and 0 receiving touchdowns. He finished 8th ranked in PPR, but he had 25 of his 36 receptions before Hunt, and only 11 in the 8 games where Hunt played. So he was not receiving the ball in the 8 games that Hunt played. I mean, we'll get 100, but his rushing totals remain the same. So his usage was still there. He had 154 carries in the 8 games without Hunt. He had 144 in the 8 games with Hunt. So that's still, that didn't really move the needle on that at all. But the receptions going from 25 to 11 definitely was a lack. And in his touchdowns as well. He scored 6 of his 8 touchdowns in the 8 games before Hunt and only had 2 touchdowns once Hunt had returned. So if Hunt leaves town, I know he's a restricted free agent, so the Browns are going to have a chance to match the offer or put a round tenure on this guy. But if someone comes hunting, someone wants the services of Kareem Hunt, offering him like $8 to $10 million a year, I don't think the fucking Browns are going to be able to match that. I think Kareem Hunt's going to move out of town. If that's saying Nick Chubb, I think if you tell me Kareem Hunt's definitely out of town, I think I'm moving Nick Chubb up ahead of Derrick Henry and maybe even Alvin Kamara on this list. If he can duplicate what he did in the first half of the season to the second half, we're looking at 50 receptions and 12 touchdowns. You get it done like that, you get it sexy for like that, that's top 4, top 5 running back on the season. So, I mean, I don't know. Kareem Hunt leaves town. Nick Chubb all in sexy deluxe. Right now, if Kareem Hunt doesn't leave town, though, if he's back again, I think we might have to push Nick Chubb out of the top 10 for at least this next season. All right, we got Josh Jacobs giving him the nod here over a couple guys. I mean, I love the cut of Josh Jacobs' jib. He went out there, got 242 carries in his rookie campaign for 1,150 yards, 7 touchdowns, added to 20 receptions, but needs to go up, John Gruden. We need to get this guy the ball more through the year. How many fucking times do I need to watch bumcocks like Jalen Richard take these dump-offs every fucking week? I mean, Josh Jacobs was only in on like 55 or 60% of the snaps on the weekly basis, and he was still getting all of these carries. Like every time this guy was on the football field, he was touching the ball. I know he had a banged-up shoulder for most of the second half of the season, so that was holding him back. I don't know. You got to give him the ball more. I like the cut of his jib. He's a grinder. He's going to get it done. He knows for the end zone type of guy. But he only had 3 games over 20 PPR, so he only really got it sexy for you 3 times. But he only had 3 games in single digits. He only went out there and shit the bed for you 3 times as well. So you look at it, and guys like Derrick Henry out there had just as many single-digit games as a guy like Josh Jacobs. So he has the ability. They need to get him more through. They need to get those receptions from 20 to 40. They get the receptions from 20 to 40. All in Josh Jacobs. So we got some Aaron Jones. He had 236 carries for 1,084 yards and 16 touchdowns. He had 49 receptions for 474 yards, which is almost 10 yards reception. Very sexy deluxe for a running back. And the 3 touchdowns. In the 6th game he didn't score. He only cracked over 8 PPR once, however. So this guy was feast or famine, the definition of such, all in. This guy was getting it done for you, or he just wasn't. I mean, you look at it, in one of those games that he did, the only game that he cracked over 8 PPR points in the 6 games that he didn't score touchdowns was in week 17, where it wasn't really helping you, unless you're one of those fuckboys that plays your title games in week 17s when you like playing guys that didn't even help get you to the dance for some reason. I don't know. You should stop it. Just stop it. All right, he only had 20 or more carries in 3 games, and 1 was in week 17 as well. So we only went out there and touched the ball 20 or more times on the ground for you twice in games that mattered for our fantasy season. He had 5 duds, but in 6 of his games, he had 25 PPR or better, including 4 40-point burgers. So in 6 of his games played, he went out there and absolutely won you that week. He went out there and absolutely got it sexy for you. But the only thing that has me a little bit worried about Aaron Jones, you look at it, and the guy averaged a touchdown every 15 touches. And that's absolutely insane, because the Lord and Savior Christian McCaffrey went out there, and he only averaged a touchdown only every 21 touchdowns, and he's the sexy deluxe beast from beyond the grave or whatever the fuck. So there's no way Aaron Jones can go out there and get average a touchdown every 15 touches in 2020. I don't think he can do it. It ain't going to happen. That's why I got him ranked down in the 9 list instead of up there in the top 5 where he finished at number 2. He finished at number 2 on the season, but I'm not giving him top 5 because I'm a little bit scared of these touchdown totals go from 19 to say 10. I mean, that's a big, 10 touchdowns is still sexy deluxe, but if these touchdowns go from 19 to 10 and his rushing attempts stay the same, I mean, you're looking at a guy who is finishing right about 9, which I got him ranked right now. All right, we're going to finish out the top 10. We're going to go Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon. I mean, we had him buried. We had him golden shoveled. And he said, wait a minute, motherfuckers. I'm not dead. They're talking about giving me the ball now. And that's exactly what they needed to do. You go out there, you had 278 carries on the season for 1,137 yards. The 5 rushing touchdowns added 35 receptions, which is a little bit low for Joe. Like to get those more in the 45-50 range for Joe for 287 additional yards and 3 touchdowns. He finished 13th in PPR. But you look at it, Joe. I mean, this is why we were golden shoveling you, Joe. The guy had averaged 10 PPR points in his first 8 weeks. Went out there and played an early to mid-second round pick for you, Joe. And you were going out there and you were averaging 10 PPR points for us in the first 8 weeks. But if you were still alive in the playoff chance after the playoff hunt, after Joe went out there and just shit all over your chest in the first 8 weeks, oh, baby, Joe responded very sexy for you. He averaged just under 19 PPR. So he almost doubled his production, averaging just under 19 PPR points in the last 8 weeks, which was more than Fournette average on the season. Fournette averaged 17 PPR on the season and just 2 below Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook averaged 21 PPR on this season. I mean, and if it wasn't his receptions, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, the Bengals are losing, so all they're doing is dumping it off to Joe. That's why he's got these numbers. No, because he had 19 of his receptions in the games when they're out there sucking that wiener. When he was out there sucking that wiener, he had 19 of his 35 receptions. So he had 16 receptions. So he only averaging 2 receptions a game in these games where he was absolutely eating because they were just giving him the ball more. I mean, he had 101 carries in those first 8 weeks. He had 177 carries in the last 8 weeks. They're getting Jonah Williams back, their first round pick last season at tackle. They're getting Jonah Williams next year. I mean, I'm just talking all in. I mean, the only reason why I'm marking you down to 10, Joe, is because you still play for the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow's coming to town. Cincinnati Bengals are digging it up. They're getting it going. If we can get Joe Mixon back, if they can give Joe Mixon this work on a weekly basis and get those receptions back up into the 40 or 50 realm, we might be talking about Joe a little bit higher on this list. But he still plays for the Bengals, and I'm still not sold. I mean, the Bengals are clear by far the worst team out of any of these teams on the top 10 list of any other running backs. So it's always between 2 different running backs for me. If I'm looking at them, I'm always going to pick that running back that plays for the better team. But Joel, we're going to round off the top 10 with you, bud. And the guys that just slightly missed the list that we're going to be talking about next week: Miles Sanders, Fournette, Singletary, Austin Eckler, and Kareem Hunt. Looking to round out the top 15, but we will get into them next week as long as the other 5 gentlemen in 11 through 20. Like to cut in my gym and go down there, pound the piss out of that subscribe button. If you're still listening to me fucking talk right now, you got to go out there and pound the piss out of that subscribe button, baby. You absolutely have to do it. You got to get that likes as well. We need to get those likes back up toward the 50 mark, boys. I mean, we fucked around with like 80, 90 likes in the video mid-season last year, and we need to get those likes back up into the 50 round for me. Let's go. I mean, you got to get out there. We're looking to get an Instagram started for the Tankers as well, so you got to get on Instagram. Join the fist. Join the Tankers Fantasy Football Revolution on Instagram, and we will get it sexy for you out there. That's how you get the hog updates. We go on these journeys in the hog. You want to get some hog updates? You gotta get on the Instagram. Get on the Instagram. Join the fist, and let's get it sexy for you out there. Holler at me.
I'm hot as fuck, bitch.